I had a couple of you guys this afternoon hit me up about Brian Flores. We will get to that first thing tomorrow morning. I wanted to let that story breathe for a little bit, continue to develop. I think there's going to be a lot of legalese with it. I mean, it's a lawsuit. So I want to make sure we get it right. We will get into that first thing tomorrow morning. We're going to close out today with the WNBA. The hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of these people, it's comical at this point. How long have we been listening to complaints about women not being paid fairly in sports, not being paid equal to men? How long have we been hearing this? Every time Megan Rapinoe opens her mouth, she is whining that she's not paid what she's worth. I actually happen to agree with her. I Googled the salary of Megan Rapinoe. She made approximately $447,000 last year. If we all agree that we should be paying people based off of their value, paying people based on what they're worth, then Megan Rapinoe last year was overpaid by $400,000. There have been court cases about this supposed unequal pay for women in sports. Of course, they lose the case. Clearly, Supreme Court judges are smarter than these women, or they're not agenda driven, probably both. In a free market system, which is what we are desperately clinging on to here in America. In a free market system, the only way for you to make more money is to generate more profit. If your league doesn't generate profit, if it loses money, you should be happy being paid at all. You know what happens in the real world when a company loses money? They go out of business. I think one of the reasons the WNBA is so loved by the mainstream media, besides the fact that the league fits the narrative, the WNBA is the ultimate beacon of socialism. What is the primary foundation of socialism? You take money from the rich or the people who work, and you give that money to the poor. Well, I shouldn't say poor. That's not politically correct. Instead of poor, let's say people that possess the inability to adequately take care of themselves financially. Here we have a league that in 25 years has never generated a profit. Right now, while you are watching this video, my YouTube channel just generated more profit than the WNBA has in its 25-year existence. The only reason the WNBA survives, they accept money from the rich, in this case, the NBA. For 25 years, the NBA has kept the WNBA afloat, and no one can figure out why. People don't give a shit about the WNBA, but I guess it gives the NBA a nice charitable write-off on their taxes every year. WNBA players have been bitching and complaining for years now about how they're not paid fairly. 2 years ago, Sue Bird took to Instagram to show the world how women aren't paid the same as men. She compared her WNBA compensation to the NBA compensation of LeBron James. Look, everyone, LeBron makes $30 million a year. I only make $200,000. This is clearly sexism. No, it's economics 101. Even though NBA ratings are in the shitter right now, the NBA audience is 10 times the size of the WNBA. They generate more revenue. Even with the WNBA generating less profit than a flea market in El Salvador, the women involved with the league, they received some good news today. Becky Hammon, former WNBA player and new head coach of the Las Vegas Aces, it was revealed that her annual salary will be over $1 million. If I'm not mistaken, she has become the first person involved with this dump to make $1 million per year. I mean, that's good news, right? All of these women have been complaining about money. Now they have a woman opening doors for them, setting a precedent, raising the salaries for other coaches, and perhaps one day players throughout the WNBA. That's how the free market works. One person gets a huge bump in pay. Over time, it will trickle down to the rest of the league. So, this is great news, right? Imagine my surprise. Imagine my surprise when I open my news feed and see a WNBA player complaining about the salary of Becky Hammon. Liz Cambage is an unrestricted free agent in the WNBA. She used to play for the Las Vegas Aces. Up until an hour ago, I had never heard of her. I briefly did a little bit of research on her, did my due diligence. It took me about 60 seconds to find out Liz Cambage is a social justice warrior. Makes sense now why she played in the WNBA. When this league is looking for players, they only have a couple of requirements. The barriers to entry into the WNBA very, very low. One requirement, you have to identify as a woman. Now, it's unclear if you're required to be a biological woman. I think you just have to identify as one. And number two, you have to be a social justice warrior. As long as you meet these two requirements, you too could be a WNBA player and be paid far more than you're worth. Instead of Liz Cambage being happy for Becky Hammon, instead of her looking at her $1 million salary as a step in the right direction, she takes the opportunity to shit all over it. I swear to God, these people are so miserable. There is no pleasing them. Look at this tweet. Look at this tweet. With Liz Cambage being an avid SJW, I know she struggles in the common sense department, so let me take this opportunity to explain to her how life in the real world works, how things work in the free market. You see, Becky Hammon has something called value. I know this is a foreign concept to people like Liz Cambage who try to attach their value to their gender or their skin color instead of, actually being valuable. Becky Hammon spent 8 years learning under Greg Popovich, which is a scary thought, I know. Greg Popovich is ideologically challenged, but when it comes to the X's and O's of basketball, when it comes to running a successful franchise long term, you couldn't learn from anyone better than Greg Popovich. You could make the case that Becky Hammon was on track to become the first female head coach in the history of the NBA. She was respected by players. She spent 8 years in a first-class organization. Now, it might have taken another few years for it to happen, but Becky Hammon was definitely on that path. Now, I bring that up because Mark Davis had to offer her something to incentivize her to leave the NBA. I mean, let's be real here for a second. It's not like the WNBA is a prestigious league. It's not like these are highly coveted coaching jobs. Hell, they can't get fans to show up to arenas. I mean, this league is a fucking dump. They can't give tickets away. I've seen more people running into a burning building than I've seen at a WNBA game. They don't have high-profile coaches beating down the door trying to get a coaching job in this league. So you can't attract talent based on prestige alone. It's not like a coaching job in the NBA or the NFL. The Saints, they're looking for a head coach. They can take their pick of the most qualified, talented candidate. A WNBA team looking for a coach? They just got to take what they can get. Is she breathing? Check. Can she see? Check. She's qualified. Let's hire her. Give her the job. They had to give Becky Hammon incentive to walk away from her path in the NBA, take a step down, and agree to jump into the WNBA landfill, the land of the lost, the place where careers go to die. Liz Cambage complained that she has to use her own money to upgrade from coach to first class on flights. Boo fucking who? You should be happy you're being paid at all. Liz Cambage made over $200,000 last year. The WNBA lost $10 million. They don't have the money to fly you first class. Hell, they don't have the money to fly you, period. Keep complaining about flights. The league, they'll cut down on travel costs to save money. You could be riding a Greyhound to games next season. Liz Cambage is representative of the problem with SJWs. It's never enough. You can't ever please these people. Player salaries go up, not enough. Woman coach breaks barriers, makes $1 million, not enough. I was reading an article on SB Nation. They were making the case that WNBA players deserve more money. Someone please explain to me how WNBA players deserve more money. It is estimated that the WNBA has lost around $250 million throughout its existence. NBA players like LeBron James complain about the cops having it out for them. Dude, your biggest threat is your fellow SJWs in the WNBA. They are robbing you blind. I would not be worried about the police. I would be more concerned with the subsidized dump that's stealing millions from you every year. But let me know what you guys think. Becky Hammon makes $1 million in the WNBA. Liz Cambage has the audacity to complain about it? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. We will get into Brian Flores first thing tomorrow morning. I will see you guys then.